Thank you for watching us on YouTube. But did you know that if you're on the go, you can get the full show as a podcast now? You can get our morning breakdown of the most important topics facing our country, news not being covered by the mainstream media, interviews with change-making progressives, and info on what you can actually do about all this. Search for The Damage Report on your favorite podcast app and subscribe so you know when new episodes are ready to go. Over the course of this summer, the Center for Public Integrity sent its reporters to 6 different communities across the country to report on situations where poverty is not just lingering, but in fact even worsening. And joining us now to break down this reporting, we have Dave Levinthal, federal politics editor and senior reporter. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be with you.
Very glad to have you here. So obviously this reporting that your group is doing very wide in breadth geographically as well as topically. Can you talk us a little bit through what the overall mission of this project was?
Well, at the Center for Public Integrity, we so often focus on big money in politics, super PACs, billionaires who are dumping money into both sides in a midterm election like this. So we wanted to do something that might have been a little idiosyncratic for ourselves, but look at the people who didn't have money across the country, but yet still had profound needs and a profound desire to engage in the political process and get something from their government that they felt like they weren't getting. And it was different for all the different communities that we first explored. And we looked at dozens and dozens of places around the country and ultimately vetted our list down to 6 places. And we felt that these places were very representative of the struggles that many Americans are having right now in an economy that the president is telling us time and time again is one of the best that we've ever had in the nation. And that poverty, well, you know, the war on it that we've been waging for decades, it's largely over. But yet, when you talk to so many people in these communities, they feel something very different than what the president and what the White House or people in Washington here would sometimes like to have you believe.
I'd like to ask you about a couple of the individual reports. You've been releasing them in a rolling fashion throughout the summer. The first that you have profiled is in Presidio, Texas, and this is a community being affected by the debate and construction around the wall. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, Presidio, probably nobody's ever been there except if you have gone to the Big Bend region of Texas. I worked in Texas for the Dallas Morning News for 7 years and visited several times and always found it to be a very odd place, incredibly isolated, but a population of about 4,000 people. Our reporter, Suhana Hussein, who went down there and spent a great deal of time with people in Presidio, Texas, while she was there, found it to be a community that was so incredibly reliant on its cross-border Mexican sister city, a place called Ojinaga, Mexico. And even for daily necessities of life, groceries, healthcare, if you get sick, if you get hurt, people in Presidio find themselves having to go to Mexico to get their needs met because of the isolation there and because it takes, oftentimes an hour or 2 or more to just get those needs met. Bottom line for Presidio is that people there are very, very afraid of what would happen if a wall was built on the border, specifically through their own town. They feel like it would cut them off from not only the necessities that they have in Mexico that they rely on, but also too from a community that they don't see divided by a border. They see it as almost a whole cloth kind of situation where the people of Ojinaga, the people of Presidio, even though one is in one country and one is in the other, they see themselves as one community. And they definitely don't want a border wall or the money that would be spent on a border wall going toward that. They say, hey, we have many, many other needs. We are very deep in poverty. We need those needs met with federal government assistance and help that would help us in a very different way.
Yeah, I'm glad that you profiled that because I think very often the conversation about the economic, I guess, connection between the US and Mexico is one of exploitation. That's what the Republicans want to focus on. But that situation in Presidio is fairly common across much of the Texas border where there's a free-flowing, people go across the border to shop and things like that, and that could, of course, be hurt. I did want to ask you about Standing Rock, where one of your profiles has to do with new attempts to suppress the vote. How is that being done?
So Carrie Levine, a reporter on our team, spent time up there this summer, and our story, which published just last week, just on Friday, we'd encourage you to read it at publicintegrity.org. It goes into great depth about the both historical and much more recent aspects of what's happening in terms of political participation in Standing Rock. When you think of Standing Rock, you might think of what happened a couple of years ago with the pipeline protests that were taking place there. But what we found, what Carrie specifically found, was that here in a state which has a lot of power per vote there. It's a very small state, and yet is represented by 2 senators. Just like anywhere else, there's a very competitive race there. Heidi Heitkamp, the Democratic incumbent, she's down in the polls right now. And the people of Standing Rock, because of a court wrangling or court battle that has been wrangling through the court system just recently, they're very afraid that they're not going to have quite the same ability to vote as other people in North Dakota because of certain ID regulations that have been put in place several years ago. And there are some people who simply live on reservations there who don't have physical addresses, and that's one of the requirements that is coming about as a result of some of these new rules. Now, there are mitigating elements, and county officials and state officials have said, look, there are other ways for people to vote if they don't have quite the proper identification that we're asking for. But there's a lot of concern and a lot of worry that people who are Native Americans in North Dakota are going to be disenfranchised in some way as a result of this battle that has been going on.
Yeah, certainly a story that we see echoed in other parts of the country. Well, Dave Levinthal, thank you both for your series, this work that you're doing. Many of these stories not being talked about in other parts of the media. So thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for watching this clip from The Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.